Welcome back, guys. I'm going to be sharing with you how I make my burgers and also how I keep them juicy. So this is all you're really going to need. You're going to need to buy some patties. I don't recommend getting 90% or higher lean beef because you're not going to have enough fat, so it's going to dry out way quicker. I usually like getting the pre-made patties. It just saves a lot of time, and it's also a good mixture, being 85% lean, 15% fat, which gives us enough moisture there and enough fat to be able to burn off without drying out the patty completely. I like having cheeseburgers. A lot of people like having regular burgers, but just pick up the cheese of your choice. Don't really matter there. It's going to add a little bit more calories, a little bit more fat, but it's also going to add a little bit more protein. I like keeping my burgers very plain because I usually grill for more than just myself, and some people prefer other things than what I like. So what I usually do is I just put pepper and salt on them, coat both sides of them, after we've coated all the patties in olive oil. You also need your buns of choice, but also don't forget to have a spray bottle because burgers are really prone to having flare-ups on the grill because of all the drippings that come off of them, all that fat. Especially when we're putting olive oil in there, it's going to increase the risk for those flare-ups. And if the grill's left unattended, those flare-ups could cause the patties to burn. It could ruin the whole patty. But by having a squirt bottle or a beverage of some sort by the grill to be able to pour out those flames and kind of be eyeballing every now and then, it's going to really decrease the risk for those flare-ups getting out of control or burning your patty. The first thing we want to do is go ahead and turn on the grill before we do any prep work. Go ahead and get those eyes turned to max heat. And the reason you turn them to max heat and get the grill hot is because it's ready when you get the prep work done, but also when you open up the grill before you put anything on, everything's been burned off and it's easy just to scrub down. Now moving on to our prep work, we're going to go get into our patties. And I like using the container the patties come in to do the prep work. It just saves the hassle of cleaning an extra plate. So what we're going to do is remove the dividers. Now that that's done, be sure you wipe your hands on something so you don't cross-contaminate your containers. And let's go ahead and let's pour some olive oil. We're just going to give them a thorough coat. And we'll have to move these around after we get the first coat on. Just be sure all the patties have a good coat on both sides. The less patties you have, the easier this is and less oil you have to use. Like I said earlier, the olive oil is actually going to increase the risk for flare-ups, but I think the benefits are way worth the risk of having extra flare-ups and having to be a little bit more mindful of the grill. The olive oil will act as a protective barrier for the patty to help ensure the moisture doesn't completely evaporate from the meat while you're cooking, and also the olive oil that gets trapped within inside the patty, it's definitely going to help make the burger that much more juicy. Since this is a fitness channel, this might mean something for you guys, but if you do use oil, it is going to increase the overall calories per patty. But like I said earlier, I think all the cons are going to be way outweighed by the benefits of just having an overall better burger. Because you're making a burger, you might as well make it a good one. So now that the grill's had time to heat up and most of the residue that's left on the grill is burned off, we're going to take our brush. I also recommend using nylon brushes because if you use a wire or a metal brush, you can leave those behind, and those are very dangerous if they're ingested. Make sure we're going to clean off enough space for 12 patties. Now that we're ready to lay the patties, I recommend lowering the heat by at least 3/4 because having it on really high heat, having those flames that much higher, it's just going to increase the risk of the flare up. And like I said, these are really going to be prone to flaring up. So after that, we're going to go and lay our patty. I know we haven't used salt and pepper yet. That's coming next. Now you might see some flare ups start. We're not going to worry about it instantly. We're going to get the patties on here first. But trust me, they'll come. They fall apart like that, especially when they're pre-made. It's really easy for them to fall apart. Just push them back together. Use a spatula to kind of mush them down a little bit, and that'll help cook it in place. So there we go. We got a little flare up start on that last one I just laid. And these are, yeah. So see that flare up? It's getting higher and higher. So if the grill lid was closed right now, I would have no idea. But one of the key signs is smoke coming out of the back of the grill. So that's when we can open it up. Now I'm going to change the nozzle. So now we're going to use our water bottle and get underneath there, keeping that down. And what we'll do, we know it's a hot spot, so we're really going to decrease the heat by maybe even a half on that spot. These last ones have been sitting in the oil. They're going to have the most oil on them. You can see them dripping. That's what's dripping into the fire. It's causing these flare-ups. See that flare-up still going right there. But you don't want to be too intimidated by these flare-ups. They're a common occurrence. Just tackle them. When you feel like you've got the grill settled down enough where you feel comfortable closing the lid, close the lid. And by closing the lid and trapping the heat, it's going to help the burgers cook more evenly. We'll watch this for a second, get this under control until we feel comfortable closing the lid. So now that we got it under control, we're going to add some salt. I like being pretty thorough with my salt and my pepper. And we're going to salt and season the other side when we flip them in a second, because they won't be completely done when we flip them. The moisture is going to help the seasoning kind of stick more. You see that spot's flaring back up right there. If you really got a problem spot, you also could move the patty. And we'll move all the seasonings around, kind of get an even blend with the spatula after applying them like this. So these are wanting to come apart, so we're going to press them down. Got a little bit of flare up. Don't panic. Everything's under control. Give it a few squirts. All right, looking good. So now I'm going to go ahead and decrease the heat just a little bit more on these problem areas. And now we're going to close the lid. By closing the lid, you're going to limit the oxygen, which could help decrease the risk for flare-ups depending on how your grill is made. But usually we'll make sure you're around the grill so that way you can hear, extra sizzling going on. Or if you see extra smoke coming out of the back, you'll know that it's probably caught on fire. Like right now, it should be good. Open it up, just fine. No fires whatsoever. We had the water bottle just in case when we open it up, the rush of oxygen can create one of those fires to start or a little flare-up like we just had. And another thing is you're going to leave them on just like this for at least 3 to 4 minutes, depending on how rare you like your burger. If you have like an Angus beef burger or something that's just not regular ground beef, you can get away with them being a little bit more rare. I personally like mine to be pretty well done. It can be a little pink, but I don't want any blood in mine, so that's how we're going to make them. So I like going about 4 minutes, maybe 3, 3.5, somewhere around that range. Usually before we flip, the patty's going to be cooked halfway through, with it being brown towards the center. We'll flip it over, give it another 3 to 4 minutes, and it should be perfect. Be prepared for a lot of smoke, because the olive oil is really going to want to smoke, but don't be alarmed by that. It's just part of the process. So they've been on for about 3.5 minutes. We're going to start flipping. Should have those nice grill lines in some of these. Don't be alarmed, it's just the olive oil and the fat falling off. We had one patty fall apart there. It's unfortunate. All these extra pieces are falling off for the dogs, I reckon. Don't want it going to waste. We'll see on these hot spots, we can see it's getting a little more charred than what we want. So we're going to take the heat down even more on those areas. Now these other ones are looking just right. So we got a little bit of pink, a little bit of blood still showing on the side right there. But we see that it's browning, it's gone about halfway through. And so we know we're doing pretty good on our timing as far as how hot our grill is. Because like I said, every grill is going to be a different temperature. But this is a good indicator because every grill is going to be different. So you want to watch your patty. And don't forget to season this side too. You can season before if you prefer. It doesn't really matter, I don't think, in my opinion. I just like doing it after. Because after you flip and when you put them on, you're going to have to watch the grill anyway, make sure there's no flare-ups like what we just had. And once you feel comfortable, we're going to go ahead and close the grill down once again. Give it another 3 minutes to finish up. Now when the burgers start looking done, what I like to do is kill the heat, close the lid, and if I want cheese on some of the patties, I'm going to go and add the cheese before I close the lid to help trap the heat and melt the cheese thoroughly. And if you're really trying to impress, whoever you're grilling or cooking out for, we'll make sure it's a good burger. The buns are often overlooked. You can toast the buns, while you've got the heat killed. You can move the patties to one side, throw on the cheese, put your buns down the other side, put a little butter on them, let the butter melt a little bit so you don't burn the bun. But you can give them a light toast or put them up here on the top rack, whichever you prefer for your grill and how hot it is. But for today, I don't feel like adding the extra calories to the butter and going through the hassle of toasting the buns. Let's go ahead and let's get a little cross section going, see what we're looking like. Oh yeah, I just hear how juicy that is. So here's our reveal for the cross section. Let's see how juicy it is. I'd say that's pretty juicy, boys. I don't know about you guys. But I'd say that's juicy. I'd say that's juicy, and it's also pretty well done. There's a hint of pink on the camera, but it's literally gray to me in natural lighting. So this is perfectly cooked and real juicy. If they're not impressed with this, they don't know what a good burger is. You also know it's a good burger when you don't need, onions or, condiments to kind of mask the flavor of the burger. The burger has a really nice natural flavor. It's really juicy. It's moist. There's no reason to add anything to it, which sometimes I do, just depends on what I'm in the mood for. When I cook burgers, I usually have them just like this. For the nutrition of that burger with the Colby Jack cheese on it, it's going to wind up being 560 calories, 40 grams of protein, 30 grams of carbohydrates, and about 30 grams of fat. If you leave off the cheese, it's going to run you about 490 calories. It's going to save some calories there. It's going to be 35 grams of protein, 29 grams of carbohydrates, and 25 grams of fat. Hope this video is informational for you guys. If you guys use my method to cook your burger, let me know how it turned out. Hope you guys have a good morning, a good night whenever you're watching this, and I'll see you in the next one.